my parents had 10 children when my dad graduated from law school, so he would have graduated in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after he graduated, over at the University of Kansas, which is just about a half hour from us,
mm-hmm.
they had a sit-in, as was happening all over the country, about racial issues. And Gale Sayers was a big-name football player for KU,
mm-hmm.
and he participated in the sit-in, and he and another 10 or 12 of those black students were arrested and charged with crimes.
Yep.
And no one would defend them.
Huh.
And so my dad ended up defending them. And I don't know if you know, but my dad grew up in Mississippi.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And, of course, you know, deep south, you can imagine that he saw a lot of racism.
Oh, yeah.
And the year my parents moved to Topeka, the day that my parents moved to Topeka was the same day that the Supreme Court issued its decision in Brown versus Topeka Board of Education.
Huh.
So there was some inevitable paths there. You know, I don't think they saw it at the time, and I remember before my grandfather died on my dad's side, and then on the occasion, for example, on the occasion of my uncle's, my dad's sister's husband's funeral, my dad's stepmother was there talking in a lot of strong racial terms.
Mm-hmm.
So, no question, he grew up in an environment where it was racist.
Yeah.
And he saw those Bible verses that talk about the same law to the homeborn and the foreigner.
Yep.
And there isn't any Bible basis for, you know, it's not an abomination to be born black. So he didn't think that was right.
Yeah.
So from there, by the time the 80s rolled around, when my oldest brother and his wife, and then after a couple more years, I joined them, and then a few more siblings. And so in the 1980s, we did primarily civil rights work. We filed class actions that took on every major employer, government and private, in the state, and changed the face of how minorities were being treated.
Huh.
And it was in that time period that we had about a third of the federal docket. Our little firm had about a third of the federal docket.
Wow.
And, of course, they tried everything. We jokingly talked about the annual disbarment rights. They tried every year they tried to disbar him. Eventually they got it done in the state court because they hated it. They hated that he was coming forth with using those civil rights laws effectively to get them to get rid of Jim Crowism and to stop mistreating black people.
Yeah.
So the NAACP gave him some awards and so forth, but it was, you know, it was like everything we do. It was scripturally based.
Yeah.